Imagine a company that doesn't make anything. It doesn't build cars, it doesn't bake bread, and it doesn't manufacture phones. Yet, this company is the largest shareholder in the banks that hold your money, the companies that provide your internet, and the firms that produce your food. If you own an index fund or a pension, there is a nearly 100% chance they are managing your future right now. That company is BlackRock. As of 2026, they manage over $11.5 trillion. To put that in perspective, if you spend $1 every single second, it would take you 31,000 years to spend just 1 trillion. BlackRock handles 11 times that. But the real story isn't just how much money they have, it's how they've quietly positioned themselves as the central operating system for global capitalism. Today, we're going to look past the headlines and the conspiracy theories to understand exactly how BlackRock built the wealthiest empire in human history, and why, in the modern world, all roads eventually lead to them. The failure that built an empire. To understand BlackRock, you have to understand the man at the top, Larry Fink. In the 1980s, Fink was a titan at First Boston. He was a pioneer in mortgage-backed securities, the very stuff that would eventually break the world in 2008. But back then, Fink made a massive mistake. He miscalculated interest rates and lost his firm $100 million in a single quarter. He was out, fired, a Wall Street failure. But that failure gave him an obsession, risk. Fink realized that most people on Wall Street were just gambling. They didn't actually understand the math behind the bets. So, in 1988, when he started BlackRock in a small office with 7 partners, he didn't just want to be an investment firm. He wanted to be a technology firm. He hired programmers and mathematicians to build a system called Aladdin. At the time, people laughed. Why would a bunch of stockbrokers need a supercomputer? But while everyone else was focused on the next big thing, Fink was focused on the worst-case scenario. Aladdin didn't just track stocks, it used Monte Carlo simulations to imagine every possible disaster, pandemics, wars, oil spills, interest rate hikes, and calculated exactly how those events would affect a portfolio. By the time the rest of the world realized they needed this technology, BlackRock already owned it. The 2008 pivot. The turning point for BlackRock wasn't a stock market boom, it was the 2008 financial crisis. When the world's biggest banks began to collapse, nobody, not even the government, knew what was actually inside those complicated, toxic portfolios. They were essentially black boxes of debt. The U.S. Treasury and the Federal Reserve were in a panic. They needed someone to come in, look at the mess, and tell them what was worth saving. There was only one firm with a computer powerful enough to do it: BlackRock. The government hired BlackRock to manage the cleanup. Suddenly, the failing stockbroker from the 80s was the man the president called to save the economy. This gave BlackRock 2 things that are worth more than gold: unprecedented data and political influence. They weren't just a player in the market anymore, they were the umpire. While banks like Lehman Brothers vanished, BlackRock used the crisis to expand. In 2009, they bought iShares from Barclays. This was the smartest move in the history of finance. It moved BlackRock from active investing, where you try to beat the market, to passive investing, where you simply own the market. The passive revolution. This is the core of their wealth. The passive revolution is the idea that instead of picking one winner, you should just buy a piece of everything. Every time you or your employer puts money into a 401k or an S&P 500 ETF, BlackRock takes a tiny fee. It's a toll booth model. They don't have to be smarter than the market, they just have to own the pipes the money flows through. Because of this, BlackRock has become the top shareholder in almost everything. If you look at the ownership of Google, Amazon, or Johnson & Johnson, you'll see BlackRock's name in the top 3. But here's the nuance. They don't own the companies in the traditional sense. They manage the shares for you. But, and this is a big but, they hold the voting rights. In 2026, BlackRock has the power to vote on who sits on the board of directors for thousands of companies. This is what Larry Fink calls investment stewardship. Critics call it something else, an invisible empire. When the same 3 firms, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, vote for every major company, they can effectively steer the entire global economy without ever owning a single factory. The AI supercycle and the new frontier. So where are they going now? As we move through 2026, BlackRock is shifting again. They realize that the index fund market is reaching its peak. Their new obsession? AI infrastructure. While the public argues about AI chatbots, BlackRock is moving billions into the physical world. They're buying data centers, funding massive power grid upgrades, and investing in the energy transition. They've realized that AI isn't just software, it's hardware, it's land, it's electricity. By funding the infrastructure that AI runs on, BlackRock is once again positioning itself as the toll booth. If you want to use the intelligence of the future, you'll have to use a data center or a power grid that BlackRock helped finance. They're not just managing your money anymore, they are building the physical walls of the 21st century economy. Myths versus reality. Now, with this much power, the stories start to get wild. You've probably heard that BlackRock is buying up all the houses so you can't own one. The truth is a bit more boring, but no less significant. While a different firm, Blackstone, became the poster child for buying houses, BlackRock's influence is more systemic. They provide the credit and the technology that allows these massive buyouts to happen. And then there's the Great Reset, or the idea that Aladdin is a sentient AI controlling the world. The reality is actually more concerning than a sci-fi movie. Aladdin isn't a sentient brain, it's a mirror. It reflects the risks and the greed of the entire world back at us. The problem isn't that a computer is running the world, it's that our entire financial system has become so complex that we've handed the keys over to a single firm because they are the only ones who know how the engine works. BlackRock didn't build its wealth by being a shadow government. It built its wealth by being the ultimate middleman. They saw the value of data before anyone else. They saw the shift to passive investing before it happened. And they made themselves so useful to governments during crises that they became too big to fail without ever being a bank. We live in a world where you can opt out of many things. You can switch phones, you can change banks, you can move cities. But in 2026, it is almost impossible to opt out of BlackRock. They aren't just a part of the economy, they are the plumbing. And as long as the water is flowing, the builder gets paid.